Honestly, I feel like some of the best work you can do as a person is just to admit that I'm a fucking idiot sometimes and really just be like, I'm dumb and I need help. You know what I mean? Anyways, hi. I love you. How is it going? I think you're really special and cool, and I'm glad that you're here, especially today. New rule. I'm only going to have female guests. New rule. They all have to be half Cuban. New rule. I am bringing interviews back, but only if they're good and if I really, really like the person. So I have an interview today, and I'm really happy you're here for it. And her name is Krista. And what's up, girl?
Hey.
I guess we should tell everyone how we met, because you've actually been featured in an episode before. So like the ride or dies, the stands, the people who message me and say that they have listened to every episode twice. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's cool. That's cool. You're cool. You're cool, and we're friends, and you're cool. And we're friends, but like, how did we meet? Do you want to tell everyone?
Sure. So we met in Division 17 in jail together.
Yes. You're like the only jail friend that I've even had some kind of like remote but like meaningful connection with that has lasted outside of being inside, because inside you're in this like forced situation where, I was just saying this, where you don't have a cell phone, and it's like the only time in your life where you don't have your phone constantly distracting you and putting you in a world that isn't your exact present moment. So it's like I can sit in my apartment and text people all over the world basically and feel like I'm, you know, being connected or being removed from like my present environment. But like, we didn't even spend that much time together, maybe like 4 or 5 days. How long do you think it was?
Probably like 4 or 5 days until you went away from us.
Yeah, what happened? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was that super hot, fumey day, and we revolted. You got moved away.
Yeah, for complaining because there were fumes and like we couldn't breathe. And I mean, you know, what a fucking dumb bitch am I? Because that really, anytime you complain in jail, you're immediately punished.
Yep.
And it's like you learn how powerless you are immediately, because whatever rights or freedom or authority you thought you had as like a white passing woman, where in the real world I can like say something and people are like, what? Oh, let me help you, you know? Yep. But in jail, people are like, oh, fuck you 10 different ways, and also I'm gonna trip you. But I mean, our time together was really special. I remember so much about that. I remember the first thing I said to you, because I noticed that your hair was cooler than mine. And I was like, I bet you like punk music. And you were like, yeah.
I remember your Kurt Vonnegut books that you had.
Oh, so
getting to
books.
share those.
Yeah, huge fan of Kurt Vonnegut. And then I was like, do you like The Faint? And you were like, yes, okay. And I like passed the test. And then you were like, I'll talk to you. Oh, that was a weird time. Well, you were not there very much longer after that, were you?
So I ended up being there for 3.5 months.
In Division 17?
In Division 17.
Wait, you never left and went to that rehab that you were supposed to go to?
I did, but it took a long time. But I avoided prison time by sitting in Division 17 for longer.
Holy fuck, dude.
It was nuts.
I was there for a week, and then I like begged my uncle to beg the judge to get me the fuck out of there. People don't understand how bad that shit was. But also maybe I'm just like particularly bitch made, because sitting in those meetings all day,
yep,
from, you know, sun up to sundown was like a very specific type of hell, where I was literally just like, I cannot listen to these fucking seeking safety like bullshit seminars from these staff members who are basically like facilitating like a drug trade underground, you know? Here's the fun fact about Cook County Jail, like in, what would you call it? Inpatient rehab.
Mm-hmm.
So like Cook County Jail's inpatient rehab is an underground drug ring that is like facilitated by the correctional officers and like the staff. Right?
Yep.
It's like, wait, and you're just like, wait, what? And you're like, yeah, no, it's super corrupt. Did you know that? So I guess we should really start at the beginning, because I know a lot about you, but nobody who's listening does. And it's fun to hear us catch up. But let's go back a little bit and you want to tell me your life story?
Sure. Let me tell me my life story. So let me just start. Like, I ended up in Division 17, so I can like start there and like backpedal a little bit. So I ended up there because I had been a homeless heroin addict for about a year. My boyfriend and I broke into his father's house. His father was a retired Chicago police captain.
Fuck 12.
We decided it was a great idea, and he pressed charges against us. Right,
Bullshit.
like, which was crazy. Like leading up to that, like I didn't wake up and think like being a heroin addict was going to be awesome, right? Like that was not the case for me. Like I started like when I was young and I would smoke weed and I sold acid and I took ecstasy and I was in an abusive relationship, and when that ended,
sounds familiar actually.
Right? When that ended, I became a garbage can, right? Like whatever you put in front of me, I was in so much pain because I had been abused, and then he left. So it's like, how are you going to abuse me and leave?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's not fair. And I just
guess I'll just destroy myself.
Exactly.
Like, why are women like that? But it's so relatable.
Exactly. And it's like let me, like, you thought I was a piece of shit. Let me show you how big of a piece of shit I am.
Oh,
and heroin.
I love you. I'm so sorry you went through that.
I love you too. Thank you. It's crazy to think, though, of like how many of us have stories like that.
Dude, every single person that I talked to when I was in prison and when I was in rehab and when I was in jail, I mean, not to make you not special, because you definitely are very, very special, but like, it's just a tale as old as time.
Right.
It's like you had shitty parents, and then you were in a shitty relationship and you felt insecure, and then you destroyed yourself in one way or another, typically with drugs and sex.
Exactly.
Which like can relate, you know? Like I jumped off a building because I'm a little more hardcore than some people, but like heroin is essentially like slowly jumping off of a building, you know?
Exactly. As soon as I found that, like it was the thing that like shut all those thoughts off in my brain.
Like a warm hug on the inside.
Exactly. 100%, that warm hug. And that warm hug like took me down, right? Like I lost everything there was like on the street. Like I lived on the blue line of the CTA, those seats in the back of the train car, like those were mine that I slept in.
Well, and for people who don't know, you're actually like, and this is I think one of the sad but like interesting and weird reasons why we connected is because you're super normal.
Yep.
You came from kind of like the same background as me, where it was just like white passing, secretly Hispanic, but like surrounded by white suburban kids, so like assimilating, and then you know what I mean, like family life isn't perfect, but like they exist,
right?
So it's like not the same kind of oppression that people face when they're truly people of color who are living like in poverty, below poverty.
Exactly.
But still that same sort of like mental oppression that eventually brings you into the same place, you know? But I mean, you're mad normal is what I meant to say. So you were mad normal, and then you went from that to like, sorry, I cut you off.
You're fine.
Sleeping on the blue line, which is like, I mean, I've been there. I've ridden the blue line all day before when I didn't have a place to live, you know? So like, I feel that.
Yep. And it sucks, and it's scary, and like every day, like I basically am someone that like for the sake of a good story, like I will continue on. So like in my head,
cool? Yeah.
Exactly. I was like, I'm so hardcore, like I'm so cool, I'm so free. And really like I had a knife in each of my boots because I was so afraid that someone was gonna like come up to me while I was sleeping and like harm me in some way. But the like cycle of lies I would tell myself. So I finally, you know, started checking myself into rehab, signing out of rehab because I was like way too scared. And I met a boy in rehab. And then that's who I ended up committing crimes with and going to jail with. Like,
is this
tale as old as time.
Who wouldn't let you shoot up in your hands because of the music thing? So also what people don't know about you is that you're an extremely talented musician. You've been in a touring band, and you're dope. That's right. But so I remember very vividly you telling me this story about this guy in particular, and you'd say that you guys would like help each other shoot up, and that like he would never let you shoot up in your hands because like that's where your art came from.
Exactly. Because not only am I a musician, but I'm a hairstylist as well. So it was just this, like, so many things that mean so much to you. Like, don't destroy that part of yourself. And it's weird, the things that, like basically living that life, there's, like, no sense of normalcy. Like, I completely lost my sense of self, but there are still those, like, little things that you're holding on to, you know? Like, the back of my head, I'm like, I know I like to play music. Like, I know I love to do hair, and I love to do all these things, and, like, I'm totally incapable of doing them, but, like, I don't want to fuck up my chances in case, like, things work out in the future. It's just a weird place to be.
That's the dichotomy of being, like, white, no offense, white privilege, and then also, like, having a really serious, like, destructive, like, habit or, like, streak, you know?
Right.
Because I guess, like, maybe you would call yourself an addict, but, like, I don't even know if I would label you like that. I would just say that you're more, like, destructive, you know?
Exactly. I had a therapist once when I was a kid that was like, you really like destroying yourself. And I was like, never coming back here. Don't want to hear you anymore.
Yeah, you're like, that just got too real. Thank you.
Exactly.
So I know you're terrible shit, but, like, if you feel safe,
Yeah.
do you want to just tell me, or tell everyone what happened when, you know, I'm sorry, I'm being weird about this.
No, it's okay.
I don't even know how to approach it when it's somebody else either, just because it's like I remember being in the day room with you and you telling me this story, and I was, like, literally crying. And when I saw you, I don't know, however many 2 years, and you did my hair before my cousin's wedding, like, that day I was like, I don't know. It's like I knew you, sorry if this is weird, I knew you were high that day, and I knew that we were kind of, like, running late and, like, whatever, and, like, I didn't even really want to leave. I actually ended up missing, like, the ceremony that day and just went to the reception, but, like, I didn't even want to leave because I just wanted to be like, do you want to stay here? Like, are you okay? Like, are you okay? And I knew that you just, like, didn't want to be like, I had relapsed, but I was like, are you okay? I love you. Like, I don't even care. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here. But so anyways, what happened to you when you were, like, a drug addict living on the street? Surprise, surprise.
So I initially got arrested for breaking into my boyfriend at the time's dad's house, and I was put on house arrest. So again, like, white girl in jail, like, committing a residential burglary, and they're like, you can go home. Like, go home. You can go to your mom's house. Like, you can get EM. I lasted a week. Like, I lasted a week going fucking crazy. I'm a heroin addict withdrawing cold turkey at my mom's house.
Fun.
And there was one night where I had, like, drank everything in her house, and my mom came home and she picked up the little phone to call the Cook County Sheriffs to have them come pick me up. And the thought of going back to jail again, I cut that band and I ran.
Mm-hmm.
I ran to the south side because my family and myself, like, had always been on the north side. So I was like, I can hide in the south side. So I was there for maybe, like, 4 days on the run. And I was always a thief, and I was doing some stuff that, like, I had never done before to try and get by, and keep myself, like, feeling well. And it was one night, and I was walking down Kedzie by, like, 87th Street, like, pretty far south.
Far south and west.
Yep. And a guy, he forced me to get in his car, and he drove me. There's a big park over there. It's called Marquette Park. And he drove over there, and when he parked his car, I tried to run away, and he tackled me to the ground by the side of the road like he raped me. And
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. I feel like I get through telling this story by, like, telling it like it happened to someone else, right? Like,
yeah,
totally. The screwed up thing about it is, like, I was so messed up at the time. The whole time, all I was thinking about was, like, well, it's okay. Like, I have a stash on me to, like, do when this is over. But by the end of the night, I was so beat up and in pain, and I was like, I I want this guy. I want them to find this guy, but I have a warrant for my arrest. So I actually turned myself into a police station and I said, I have a warrant for my arrest. I'm turning myself in and I need to file a police report. So detectives took me to the hospital and there they handcuffed me to the bed while I was like getting my exam and everything done. And they were asking me if I was sure that I wasn't trying to solicit the man because they could charge me for prostitution if I was soliciting him. And I'm like laying there and I'm like sick and I'm broken and I'm hurt and I'm like, I turned myself into you guys. Like, why are these handcuffs here in this traumatic situation?
So fucked up.
Right? Like completely fucked up. I'm like, I gave myself to you guys and like I'm in pain. And they...
also you had just been raped.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Like maybe be a little bit more compassionate. But they definitely were not. From there, they had given me like a bunch of medication to take to like make sure that I took for the next 30 days. So like I wouldn't be HIV positive, like all these things, which as a heroin addict, like I had always tried to be very safe to make sure. So when they told me I have to take this medication because I could have gotten it from this man, I was like, thank God. Like out of all the fucked up things I'd done, I'd always tried to make sure I was safe. And they took me to lockup, spent the night in jail. And then the next day I went to my bail court and it was the same judge that gave me house arrest. And she looked at me and was just like, so see, no good deed goes unpunished. Like, you don't get a bail set. And I was like, fuck. So I went in there. They refused to give me that medication.
Of course, as they do.
Exactly. And they put like, by that time, I'm like, I know the words to say right. So I'm like screaming that I want a psych eval. That I'm like, I want a psych eval. Because I know like I'm in pain. So they put me in the psych ward unit. And then a couple days later, we're just like, okay, like, she's fine. And they put me in general population. So I'm like, I was just sexually assaulted, and you're going to put me in a place where other people are sexually assaulted. Like,
Yeah.
like it just made no sense to me.
Oh my God. I'm just so angry, but I'm so upset for you. And I feel that. I'm so sorry. Fuck, dude.
So eventually, I was lucky enough to make it to Division 17, and I say lucky because like as much as it sucked because I basically like made my rounds around the other places in jail, I knew it was at least a little bit better than General Pop 100%. And then I was lucky enough to like meet people like you, like and Jennifer, and
do you talk to her?
I have not. I ran into her at a meeting a while ago, but she was really like struggling.
She came to one of my comedy shows.
She did? Yeah, that's awesome.
Like a few years ago. That's the last time I've seen her though.
I think about her from time to time and like wonder because like we've, even if I'm not talking to you, like I follow you on social media, so I like feel like I know what's going on with you.
Yeah, I love that.
Exactly. Yeah, I haven't talked to her in a while. I should probably reach out to her.
Sorry.
But yeah, leads me into Division 17. And again, like my parents were pretty fed up with my shit. So with the attorney that they had for me, they could have gotten me out of there earlier. But their main thing was I was facing 4 to 7 years of prison time. And they wanted
for the burglary.
Mm-hmm,
oh my God.
For the burglary. And then because when I ran on house arrest, I was on house arrest for a felony. The escape charge was also a felony. So I had these 2 felonies.
Which is 7 years minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
So they were like wanted to teach me a lesson and make me sit in jail, but keep me out of prison. So I was able then to like, after 3.5 months, like get out of jail, go to like a rehab in like Lake Villa, which was so weird. It was basically like summer camp. So, like, going from, jail to, like, summer camp, it was so weird. I was, like, super guarded. But again, like, I'm grateful for that experience. Like, I'm very lucky that I was able to, like, get off and get probation. Yeah. Like, to get probation and that my parents, like, had the ability to afford an attorney for me that would, like, keep me away from those charges. And it's just... Wow, it's so weird. It's so weird to have just like told the whole tale.
So what happened when you got on probation and finally got out of rehab?
So when I finally got out of rehab and probation, like I did stay sober for a little bit, right? Like I stayed sober. I went to sober living houses and I was doing well. And again, it was a guy. It was a guy that was crazy and controlling.
I remember him.
Yeah. And I still had 6 months left of probation. And one day I came home and he was high and I just like lost it. Like it snapped. I was like, where are you hiding shit in our apartment? And I started to like use, and I used for 6 months. But at that point, like I had been doing so well on intensive probation for 18 months that like they weren't drug testing me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just like seeing a friend essentially, where I would just like go there because I had to, and we would just shoot the shit for a couple minutes, and then he'd sign everything, and like I could go because I had been doing so well.
Wait, you had IDP off of like what, Ashland and Lake?
I was for the first 18 months.
Damn, I had that too. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it was 18 months of that, and then I went to a less intensive for the last 6 months again because I'm doing so great.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh, we can lay off of her like a little bit.
Well, also like, no offense, but you're pretty. And when you're like pretty and like white passing, like everyone is just so much easier on you.
Exactly.
You know, and you're just kind of like, I guess all my problems aren't even real.
Exactly.
You know?
When I went to like the lesser probation, it was at Belmont and Western, and I had like a Cramps t-shirt on, and the guy that was going to be my new PO, which at that point I am using, was just like, oh, like mentioned my t-shirt and told me about the little punk band he used to be in, which in my head I'm like, so you were in punk bands and now like you're a PO? Like this makes no sense. But he just like obviously like thought I was like pretty and had a cool shirt, and so was not looking into my eyes and seemed like, this girl's out of it right now. Mm-hmm. Like just like let it slide for me. And I am again like I'm fortunate that that was the case for me, or else I would have ended up in prison. And it's crazy to think just like how easy it was at that point to just get away with it. I ended up right before my very last court date, maybe like a couple weeks before, I started to have these like, because again, like I'm using again, I'm basically just like skating by at probation, and I started to have like these horrible like visions in my head of me like dying alone in my apartment and no one was gonna find me.
We still with that guy?
Yep, I was. So it finally ended when I decided like I couldn't do it anymore. I called my mom. I went to this rehab for a week. Like I went to detox. It's called Haymarket. And there's always the horror stories of Haymarket. It's really funny because people in there are like, this is like jail, and I'm like, no. This is great. Like, this is great by comparison. Like, you know,
this is a vacation.
Exactly.
That's what I used to say about the mental health unit compared to Division 17. I'm like, this is a 5-star hotel.
Exactly.
You know?
You're like, I can sleep all day and not be bothered.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that, and when I got out, 2 days later was my very last court date, and I got off of probation. And at least like in my experience, and I kind of mentioned to you before, like going to that time in jail, like I was forced to stop doing drugs. I was forced to like not have caffeine, not smoke cigarettes, like all of these things at once. And like that worked for a while for me. By the time I got off of probation, I am very grateful that like I had just gotten so miserable that like I was done. I was done shooting up. Like I was done destroying myself slowly. It was like a turning point for me. And it's just like crazy that it was like just before, like last second, just before I like clean myself up and go to detox to like be able to show up on my last court date and like make sure. My judge definitely took a chance on me and had told me numerous times, like, you give me a dirty drop and you're getting that 4 to 7. Like, that was all it was going to take. So I was just like, okay, like, it's going to be okay. you're doing good for this last one. Like, whatever. But yeah, it's got rid of the guy like shortly after that. I kind of was strategic, so I moved to a sober living that was like very strict, and we were not supposed to have relationships with men while we were living there. So like I could just blame, like I was too afraid to leave, so I could just like blame the place I was staying, right? Like I can't see you because I'll be homeless again, like over.
Which is fucked up, but like thank God that happened in that time so you could get away from him. I remember when you came over and he made you like FaceTime him and like made me say hello just because he'd be like, are you even where you say you are, you know?
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh, that's sweet, you guys are so in love. But I was like, oh no.
Exactly.
You know, but so then that ended, and then like what happened after that?
What happened after that?
Then you had to become a person again?
Exactly. Yeah, I had to, which is crazy. Like, I had to become a person. The time that I had been clean with before, I had been able to get a job back at a salon. And they fired me promptly, like, when I had started using again. So I was able to, like, work there a couple days a week, like, after I'd, been sober for a little bit. And, like up until like right now, like I still work there. I manage our hair department. I'm a bridal artist now, so like like
you do great updos.
Thank you. But it's crazy to think of like the situation with you where it's like I'm trying to do your hair for a wedding, and like I'm late and I'm running behind and I'm doing all this stuff because I'm so fucked up to like today. Like, I'm a dependable person.
More so than me, even. I was 15, 20 minutes late, and you were, like, 10 minutes early. And I'm like, oh, shit.
It's just ingrained in me now. And things have gotten really good. Like, I have been sober for 4 years in a couple weeks, which is...
for Dumbledore. And you, obviously.
Which is just, like, insane to me. But, yeah, like, it's been a lot of work. I am in a healthy relationship now, which is just fucking weird. Like, that was not a possibility for me.
That's beautiful. You deserve that.
Thank you. One of the things, though, that happened when I was a year and a half sober was that, my mom calls me and she says, I got a call from a detective that's looking for you. And I'm like panicking. I'm like, what the hell happened?
Who did I rob and what do they want?
Exactly. So I call the number back and it's like a victim's outreach. So in my head, I'm like, someone says that they were a victim of mine. Like, I'm going down. Like, I've put my life together. Like, it's all going out the window.
Oh no. Just that moment of fear.
Exactly. Then I'm like, it's gotta be me. I had to have fucked up. But they tell me that there was a woman who was raped by her Lyft driver. She had been kind of passed out and woke up to being tied down in the back of a Lyft.
Oh my God.
And the DNA to that had matched my case from before I went to jail.
Oh my God.
Which is crazy. No one even told me, like I said, like they didn't even give me the medication that I went to jail, was supposed to take with me to jail. No one even told me that they found anything. Like, it was just like, oh, like, here's this junkie that we think was probably prostituting. Like, we're not going to bother to, like, reach out to, like, a few years later where they're like, hey, we actually had all this evidence that we never told you about.
And a year and a half, though. Jesus Christ.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about. But so that's one thing that I've been dealing with the last couple of years is him being in jail.
Is he in jail?
Yeah.
That's dope.
I know.
But then I say that as someone who I'm like, we should abolish prisons.
Exactly.
You know, so it's like, and we've discussed that where it is kind of like complicated when you get to a point where you're dealing with violent offenders, where you're dealing with sexual assault, where you're dealing with people who are generally cruel and evil.
Right.
And then it's like, and then how do you deal with those people in a modern society where we recognize that cops are bad?
Exactly.
And that jail doesn't work. And that defunding the police is just the beginning, you know, in my opinion. But also, like, I want that guy in jail for you, too.
Exactly.
Because I also know how bad jail is. But in that same breath, I know how bad it is for women. And
Yep.
my friend who went to prison for 3 years basically was just like, oh, you can do anything you want in jail. They basically give you everything but keys to the front door if you're a man.
Yep.
And I'm like, isn't that fucking how it is for real? You know, men go to prison and like they don't get raped.
Exactly.
They don't even really get like anything terrible happening to them, except, you know what I mean? They don't, like, they can have cell phones, they can have drugs, they can have porn, they can have whatever they want. They just can't go out and like fuck women, you know?
So sad for them.
And then instead they prostitute the trans women that are in jail.
Exactly.
You know, so it's just like that. that's not the answer. But I want this guy in jail. And so now, like, what happened a year and a half after? Then you got the evidence. And then what did you have to do after the point they were like, well, we have this DNA that matches this rape to another rape. Now what?
So I had to go in and I had to identify him in a photo lineup. And I, quite honestly, I probably shouldn't even say this, but when I first saw it, like, I just glanced at the photos really quickly and I just like picked one because I like couldn't even look at it. And the woman like turned the photo back around and started to talk to me and like interview me because I had to tell what had happened, right? And I'm looking at the photos and I just start crying and I'm like, I circled the wrong one. Like, I didn't give myself long enough. And she was like, well, who? And I'm like crying and shaking and she's like, we're going to get rid of this piece of paper and I'm going to have you do it again. And you can circle the right one, which is kind of shady, but I'm also like grateful for,
yeah.
right?
Sorry, I'm like getting upset.
So that happened. Like, I had to tell my whole story. I had to answer weird questions, or not weird, but just kind of like, okay, like I knew this was coming, but questions of like, did your using at the time, like, has that messed up like your memory of it or like anything else? But very fortunately, like all that time later, I'm still able to tell the same exact story that I was like back then. Like I was still able to do those things. So that was it. They did a taped statement of me and he has been in jail. And because the other girl's case came to their desk first, even though mine happened first, they'd been moving that one through the court system, like before mine. And so they had been trying to pass a motion, that I would get to testify on behalf of her case and she would on mine, which I said I was fine with. Like, I wanted to be able to like say my piece in court. And I also, you know, because we had a lot of coaxing, I also feel like I'm like strong and sure enough of myself now that when you start asking me about how I was a drug addict, like, you're not going to shake me up, right? Like, I know I'm not that person anymore. And he just kept asking for continuances. It was like, I'm fighting with my lawyer this time. Like, it was going on and on, for like months and months. And about like March 1st or 2nd, I get a call from the state's attorney and they finally passed this motion. And his lawyer's asking him like what kind of deal they would offer. So in order for, which I didn't realize, in order for him to get a deal, both of the victims or survivors, however you want to say it, have to agree not only that he can get a deal, but they have to agree to the terms of it, which I didn't realize. Like, I thought that the state's attorney could just be like, I don't want to deal with this shit. Like, let me just offer him something.
That's what I would have assumed too.
Exactly. So it was cool to know, like, I get a say. And the guy is almost 50 in jail, and they were like, she was saying, like, she was really fired up. She's like, I told them that we're not going to take any bullshit, like, counter offers. So I'm thinking, I guess for the rape, and then they also got him on kidnapping because he forced me into his car, and he had become a Lyft driver and turned his whatever, like, system off to have the other girl. So it was kidnapping as well. But the death penalty and life in prison are not, I can't think of the words, but they're not like suited. They're not like, the crime is not punishable by those. for lack of
Which
a
isn't
better
that
term.
fucked up though?
Exactly.
Kidnapping and rape
Exactly.
are the two things that I feel like should be punishable by death and life in prison. So,
Exactly.
Okay.
So she told me that they were going to offer him like 25 years. He would have to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. And because it was a sexual crime, it's not like other sentences that you can get where you get good time, right? Like he would have to serve, I think it was
75%. That's still not enough.
Exactly. So I was like, you know what? Like, all right, but he is 50 already in jail. Like he would be 70 years old, like when he got out. And I'm like, instead of, because like I had just said a moment ago, like I'm very sure of myself and who I am, that I'm not like a fucked up, active heroin addict anymore. But it's like, I will agree to that if the other girl does, right? Like if I don't have to get up there and have someone assassinate my character, and this girl wants to move on with her life as well. I know I do not, know details about her. I've never met her or spoken to her, but I do know that she was able to file a lawsuit against Lyft for hiring this man. Like I will agree to it. And then being March 1st or 2nd, right? Like we all know, 2 weeks later, the whole country went on lockdown, including the court system. So I've been in this limbo of just hoping, are we going to get the ball moving forward when court opens back up again? Like, what does that look like? I hadn't gone to any of his court dates, but I was told, like, if I want to go, I have to call and I have to be taken in a special entrance. So, like, none of his family or friends can see me. It's like this big, like, secret to kind of, like, shuffle me in to the jail. So, I'm only getting secondhand information, but it's just, like you were saying, like, jail sucks. Jail absolutely sucks. But there's part of me that, like, loves the fact that this dude that did this to me and this other girl, and, like, to be honest, I don't think we were the only two, right?
Of course
like,
not.
Exactly.
Of course not. You were the only two that, like, had any wherewithal to report it.
Exactly.
Just because that's normally what happens, is that women get raped and then they don't report it because police treat them like how they treated you.
Exactly. 100%. It's just, it's just, like this weird place to be in, like, to want someone to, like, sit in there, but also know that, like, what the police and the jails and prison systems do is wrong, right? Like I've been feeling kind of squirrely and, like, weird about the last couple of weeks, where I'm like, get rid of all the prisons, but not for this guy.
I mean, there has to be something they can do with people who commit crimes like that. I do feel like if we were to redistribute the resources and the funds that are allocated to police now for fucking riot gear, and tear gas for their, like, active war crimes, or, and, like, put that into, and I think that you and I, like, even talked about this. It's like all of the mental health hospitals, or, like, I don't even know what you'd call them, a mental health hospital.
Yeah.
That
sounds right.
So I think that, like, a bunch of them had been closed.
Yep.
And so they just shuffle those people into prisons. And then people who are, like, poor and addicts and just things that aren't violent crimes, but that, like, lead you to commit crimes, which is, like, crime is irrelevant anyways. It's just all about protecting money, really, So it's like, if you don't have those systems in place, then the majority of people who are in jail aren't going to be there. But then what do you do with the rest of them?
Right.
Do you have any idea?
I don't. Like, I wish that I did.
Because your opinion and my opinion, frankly, are the only ones that matter when it comes to that sort of a thing. It's like white men don't get to decide if other white men get to go to prison or not for raping a woman,
Exactly.
Which, like, white men shouldn't decide anything anymore. But that thing in particular, you don't get to choose that.
Exactly.
But then also, can we just kill them? Is that an option that anyone has explored openly? Is that wrong? Like, can we just start beheading people again And it's like, I feel like that's good incentive to not rape women anymore.
Exactly.
Is like, if you do rape someone and you get caught, you will get beheaded.
Exactly.
Is that worth
pretty
it?
Steep.
Yeah. And it's like, then you have to be really sick. Like inside, you must want to die to commit a crime like that. But doing something like that is so terrible because what it does is it leaves a living person. What was that?
A fire truck went by. Jerry is screaming right now.
Oh, feeling my pain right now.
Thank you,
Literally
Jerry.
feeling it.
Aw.
Jerry.
Just we'll let this pass for a second.
That's okay. I feel it.
Aw.
Jerry, shut up! Thank you. Okay. He is done.
Love Jerry. So, but it leaves the victim feeling like they want to die.
Yep.
Every second of every day. So it's like, it's a trade-off. If you're going to make someone feel like they want to die forever, you have to die.
Exactly.
That's it. And so I think we just figured it out. We just have to kill them.
Kill them all.
There we go. Oh my gosh, I love you so much. How long was that? How long are we doing?
We are at 40 minutes.
Pretty good. Do you have anything else you want to talk about or say? Or do you feel like, I'm sorry, I love you. Do you have any?
Yeah. No, it's tissues.
I love you. I'm sorry I just opened a wound in your heart right now.
Aw, it's okay. I love you too. Thank you for letting me come on here.
Of course. I mean, thanks for coming. And also, I love you. And also, you're an amazing, beautiful, like, intelligent, dynamic, worthy, amazing. Actually, can I say amazing 4 more times? Amazing, 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 amazing human being. And I'm so happy that, like, that happened to you and it didn't kill you.
Yep.
Actually, wait, how did that not kill you? Because I legit died. So how did you survive all of that? Really quick.
Oh, man.
Real quick, just tell me how you made it through everything.
How I made it through everything very, very quickly. So a lot of that, and you know, like I know that a lot of people have like different views on getting sober, different views on 12-step programs and things like that. But what I was able to find in getting sober was like a community of women, which I was not used to having at all, that could like hold me up. And they said things like, I'll love you until you love yourself. And that is what they did. And I thought shit like that was so cheesy, but that was what I needed. Like,
No, I'm crying. That's
right?
beautiful.
Like I needed that at that time, right? Like I had to do a lot of work around those things. Like there were different things like in relationships that I was very scared of, or if someone came up behind me and tried to, you know, like touch my arm, like I would flip out. But just like walking through that and staying in areas where I do think are safe, or more so around like people who I deemed as safe, is what helped me. Part of what happened while he was raping me, like I was on a suicide mission, right? Like I had cut my band on house arrest. I'm facing all this prison time. I'm homeless again. And I was basically on a suicide mission. And when that man was attacking me, I said at a certain point, do whatever you want. Just please don't kill me. And like this light bulb went on that I was like, part of me still wants to fucking live, right? Like, part of me doesn't want to die like I thought that I had been for these last, like, how long. And that is part of, like, what I've held on to. And also that, like, angry, pissed off part of me that is like, you don't get to make me feel that way, right? Like, you don't get to, like, put me down anymore. And it has been, like, it's so weird to have been talking to police and detectives and stuff where like I am not in trouble for it, but it has been like good for me to like answer the phone and like they're actually were like talking to me about it or having me like come in, that I'm like, I'm not just sitting in it. Like I have the opportunity to like do something and say something, and like make amends to myself, right? Like make amends to that like broken girl I was, by doing what I can to like make sure it doesn't happen again to someone else. And that you know, that above all else is what has like given me a purpose in living again. Like I went through all this fucked up shit, but if I can help like one other person, then it was worth it.
I love you. That's so beautiful. That's spot on, you know? And I mean, that's like the wonderful part of tragedy is that it really does leave you feeling that way, where you're just like, that was so fucked up that like, actually, if I could help anyone through that, then it was worth it, you know? Oh man. You're incredible.
Thank you. You're incredible.
I really I love you. I respect you. I admire you. You're amazing. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing all of this with everyone and me and really anyone who's listening to this who's feeling however they're feeling, you know, and then being like, oh wow, there's like, you are the light at the end of the tunnel, you know, like you, but also if you are listening to this, like you are the light at the end of the tunnel, you know. Okay, I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.